Alright guys, so back on the Duramax build. Today's technically 7th day with this Duramax. This is where we ended off yesterday. I can't remember exactly where I showed you last. So this is new fuel injectors installed onto the cylinder head. I just put these bolts back in. I was pretty tired and I couldn't find where I left these, and they're right in front of me. So I figured yesterday was a good stopping point where I was. A couple things that will hinder the progress until later on in the afternoon is actually these grommets. The grommets that I have here. I don't know if you can see that on camera very well. I'm sure you can, but they look pretty fucked. All of them too. As you can see, that grommet is just kind of destroyed. So I went ahead and put an order in at O'Reilly's to get a new set. Unfortunately, I had to get the whole entire valve cover set, so that's going to come with new valve covers, grommets, etc, etc. Gonna see if I can return the one that I got from injectorsdirect.com. If I can't, then I guess I'll have another set of valve cover gaskets if I have to do it again. I guess so. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and torque all these down, torque that as well, and just begin ripping down the opposite side, the driver's side, because I don't really want to wait all day by doing nothing. So we'll go ahead and remove this upper radiator hose. I believe we move it from here somewhere along this line. I believe it's either here, or we might just do the thermostats as well. I'm considering actually doing the thermostats because I want to remove this wiring and this horn here, and I want to clean some of the debris up in there, and I also want to replace a couple fuel lines that I can't really get to unless all this stuff is out of the way. So I think that's what the plan will be. The AC compressor is going to move out of the way as well. We're just going to take these two bolts out, flip it over on that side, bracket here, hose, clips, what is that, the charge pipe, and whatever that thing is in the back, that little computer looking module thing, and some fuel lines there. So that's where we're at right now. I'll give you guys an update as I continue going on. Alright guys, welcome back. So I've ended up getting the upper valve cover off of this side. It was a lot more shit in the way. It was not harder, there was just a lot more wiring and all this fucking bullshit spaghetti stuff all over the place, which kind of sucked, but it wasn't very hard to get out. I would say it's just about the same as the opposite end. Oh, look, I found a hose clamp. Just about the same as the opposite end. This also appears to have had a new cylinder head gasket. I'm hoping that they did it right and I don't have to do that again, just like these injectors. But after doing some research yesterday, I found that these are kind of typical, that they do fail more than once. Considering this truck has about 169,000 miles, it could have been replaced and just failed again. Another cool thing on this diesel truck is that its primary intended service application is a federal light heavy duty engine. So what that means is, you know, is what I verified, that this truck did not come with EGR cooler and all that other emissions crap that California mandated. So that's good news. So I'm kind of excited about that I verified it's a real federally emission vehicle. I'm an emissions inspector, so I'm hoping I can smog this if it's not a star smog and be able to just roll with it. Anyways, I'm going to continue moving on and removing this lower valve cover, and I'm also going to just, you know, as the same, I'm going to pop these wiring harnesses off, and I'm going to go ahead and just remove these nuts, remove these 210s on both of these, and yep, we'll go from there. Alright guys, so we went ahead and got the injectors off of the driver's side. Immediately I could see that this cylinder, this injector, the O-ring right here folded. This was completely saturated, so was this one. These two look, this one looked fairly okay. This one was also quite saturated with fuel. So that's kind of amazing that 3 out of 4 I could see an issue with. This side is just such a big pain in the ass compared to the other side, just simply because of all this garbage around here. Not necessarily garbage, but all this stuff all around it. This firewall being a little closer to the cylinder head, that's a little more difficult to remove all the bolts. So at this point I'm pretty excited. I'm quite happy that none of the valve cover bolts stripped out on me. It's very, very critical that you use the right tools to get these things out. And if you can't get it out, use a hammer to pop your socket in, because if you don't, I mean, these are rounding and it's just gonna be a nightmare to remove if you just don't have the right tools. This is one tool my coworker let me borrow. It's a snap-on 5mm hex socket. It's a shorty. This worked perfect and that's tight to reach spots. And I also used a Harbor Freight 5mm. I mean, I've been using that for the most part, and it's been doing me pretty well. It's been good. I've been knocking it. As you can see, the wear marks, it was brand new when I got it, and it's been doing its job. To remove the hold downs, I was using this 8mm 3/8, but I was using a 1/2 inch extension to remove the holders, the injector holders. So that's where we're at right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and get the new injectors ready for installation. I'm also gonna go ahead and flip the valve covers over. We'll go check them out. They're in the washer tank, so we'll go check them out right now. All right, here are the parts washer. Let's take a look. All right, that looks a lot better. It still has some pitting, oxidization. I don't care, as long as it's cleaner than what it was. Can't complain. Lower valve cover, it's nice and clean. I'm gonna flip them over, let them do the thing. Alright guys, just giving you guys a quick update. I've got both fuel injectors installed into the cylinder heads. I've tightened down the fuel return lines on both sides. I just need to torque down the banjo, the 12mm on the top of the cylinder head that feeds all the fuel back. At this point right here, I'm going to have to run to O'Reilly's. The lower valve cover gasket set that I got did not include the grommets that I spoke about earlier in this video. While I'm going there, I'm going to go ahead and get some coolant line and some fuel line, as these have seen better days. I don't feel comfortable leaving these on the car. This is the coolant line that goes to the kind of to this junction right here where the the thermostats are, and the fuel lines are like all the return lines, the fuel filter hoses. I have some bulk hose for this bigger stuff. I think this is like the 1/2 inch stuff. I have that. It's gonna go in here. That's gonna go in this little guy, and it's gonna go from this fickum here with the smaller, appears to be what, like a 3/8. It's here and be replaced. All right guys, back from the good old O'Reilly's. Needed an energy drink. I'm hitting the roadblock with energy here, but anyways, I cleaned this surface really good. Bottom was super clean from the parts washer. Cleaned this side out as well, best I could. I didn't go too crazy with it, but I think this is good enough because it'll be stuck together with gasket maker GMS, so I don't need to really make it too perfect. That's good enough. So I'm gonna put the grommets on and begin reinstalling this lower valve cover. This will go on, then we're gonna go ahead, plug in the fuel injectors with their powers, and then after that we'll proceed to put the upper valve cover back on, and from there we should be on a home stretch with the driver's side. I'm going to put about 90% together of the driver's side, and then we'll flop over to the passenger side and fly through that as well. So I'll just bring you progressively as we progress. Bye guys. We went ahead and got the wiring harness on for the fuel injectors, the lower valve cover back on with the new gasket and hardware. Just put the RTV on the upper valve cover and ready to slap this on. Alright guys, we're moving right along. It's taking a little longer, but we're getting it done. So driver's side, we got the valve cover back on, all the high pressure fuel lines. I've got the actual diesel fuel lines going back in, the glow plug control modules plugged back in. These connectors I'm waiting to completely put back in until I complete the passenger side. what I did right now was I went ahead and just replaced all the fuel lines on this little junction block right here. These hoses were really old, brittle, and pretty much ready to pop at any given time. So I went ahead and just replaced this. I can't exactly tell you what this one does. It may be some kind of bleeder. I've never seen that before, but maybe with a little bit of research I can figure out what that is. This particular one goes to the fuel filter housing, and this one goes into a fuel inlet. So we're just gonna go ahead and plug these back in, and then after that I'm gonna go ahead and just begin reinstalling the valve covers on this side. Alright guys, we went ahead and got the lower valve cover back on. As you can see, everything's ready to go. Just putting the RTV on the upper valve cover, and we'll slap that on right now. Alright guys, quick update. And I'm gonna take my words back. I would fucking mind doing this job again. This is an absolute pain in the ass. This side is a lot of shit. Passenger side is done for the most part. I know the AC compressor's here and the coolant, upper radiator hose all over the place, but it looks crazy. But believe me, pretty much complete on this side. Fickum is back in, new seals, all the new lines over there for the fuel system is there. Yeah, for the most part everything is there. A couple more things to bolt on, like for example the battery, put the coolant reservoir back on. Don't worry, we're gonna replace that later on. And install the battery here. Currently I'm putting on the charge pipe. After that I'll be putting on the return line, the boost return line, the radiator line, radiator hose, whatever, and the AC compressor. And I think once we do all of that stuff, we can give it a crank over, prime crank, and pray that it starts. So just want to give you guys a quick follow-up where I'm at. So yeah. Alright guys, so I've got everything back together for the most part. No coolant in the system. We're gonna run it without coolant for right now, just to see if it fires up. I installed these batteries. They're different from the last time. Those are half-ton batteries. These are for the diesels. They're bigger. So I'm gonna attempt to prime the system, and we're gonna crank it over, and yeah, enjoy my misery. might help if I knew where the damn keys were. Give me a minute, let me find those keys. Alright, well I found the keys. I guess it was a good thing I lost the batteries because the GoPro battery died. So I'm going to set you guys down. You can watch me struggle trying to start this thing. And if it starts, you'll see me jump out of that truck all excited. Okay, well that sounded promising. Sounded like she almost fired up right there. But let's go ahead and prime it one more time. Alright, go ahead and try again. Alright guys, well fucking excellent news. Super happy this fucking damn thing started. And I don't know if you guys noticed, or if I didn't mention it before, reverse was not working before. I was not able to get it in reverse or for it to move under its own power in the reverse gear. Initially when I put in the reverse gear, I felt a slight RPM change. However, the gear itself did not engage. I did have a code for it. With that code, I had two wires cut right there, right here and right here. And what I did for the meantime was I just hooked them together ever so slightly just to see if that could have been the cause for my concern. Well, it appears that it was, because as you saw in the video, I put the vehicle in reverse and moved it back about a couple inches. The reason I moved it back was just so I can clean up my mess a little bit. And honestly, I was just very curious. I'm happy that it started. At this point tonight, I'm not going to go any further. I'm exhausted. I've been here for a long time. I've told you guys before, I work at a shop. However, I'm not an experienced diesel technician. I've done a lot of emissions related repairs, turbocharger, EGR stuff, services, brakes, alignments and stuff. However, I've not ever done injectors on this LB7, let alone any diesel before. So this is my learning experience, so to speak. So if I did anything wrong, just please don't bash me up too bad. I'm learning as much as I can while doing this. So right now I'm wrapping up. You guys enjoy your night, and I'll catch you on day number 8 of having this project. Peace out. All right, y'all, good morning. We're back here on a Sunday morning. It is 6:30 in the morning. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I think I'm just trying to get some shit done. So first things first, I've got to clean my humongous mess. After I make a mess, I'm gonna go ahead and make a checklist on everything that needs to be done, meaning coolant needs to be refilled, those wires need to be soldered, plug everything back up that I left disconnected, put the steering shaft back on. I did remove that just to do the driver's side rear glow plug. Like I said, that would be cylinder 8 if this was a gasoline. If the orientation is the same, forgive me, I'm not too familiar with diesels, but after this I'm pretty familiar now. Now this is a huge job. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back for the most part, start cleaning up, and we're gonna take it out on a maiden voyage. Also, I'm gonna replace these wheels and tires. These rears have excellent tread on them. However, I'm just not a big fan of these wheels. I don't like them. They're like the Chevy Express van wheels. I'm not a big fan. So I found these on OfferUp a few days ago. They are the 16s as well, but they are the brushed aluminum style. I've always liked these wheels. There's a truck right there, a 2500. This is a gasser with the same wheels, and I think it looks pretty good. Looks pretty classy. If these tires don't work out for me, I'll remove the 2 tires from that set, put it on there, and just buy 2 more tires to match. So we'll also be doing that. We're gonna take it out for a quick run. If check engine lights don't come on, then I will be taking it for about a 30-45 mile drive. I'll be attempting to clear the emissions monitors. If they do clear without having any check engine lights come back on, which I think may come back on, I don't want to jinx it, but I think it will. Considering it's been sitting for a long time, maybe something else needs attention. So we're taking it for maiden voyage. If it does pass emissions monitors, even better. We'll go ahead and do the smog tomorrow, which is a Monday, and then we can get the ball rolling even faster. And with that, we'll do a couple modifications. Maybe crank up the torsion keys a little bit, bring the ride height just a little level. Obviously I deflated the tires so I can work on it a little easier. And I'll show you guys, these tires are super cracked. They're from 2009, to put that in perspective. Okay, anyways, stay tuned. We'll get this puppy back up and going. Alright guys, I went ahead and did a decent cleanup. So as I was cleaning up, I noticed coolant on the floor, which was normal. That's from me draining it. But on that side, I noticed some diesel fuel, and that wasn't normal. So I went ahead and started up the vehicle, and I found that number 2468-135. Assuming this was a gas, I should be looking at the cylinder firing order. Sorry I haven't yet, but if this was a gasoline, this would be 135, cylinder 5 there, where the high pressure fuel line goes onto the fuel rail. Let's see if I can get on the video. You can kind of see it right there underneath the fuel lines. It's like that nut going onto the fuel rail. That was leaking, so I went ahead and just loosened it back. I just loosened it and just retightened it, made sure it was seated properly, restarted it, verified there's no more leaks. So now what I'm doing is I was gonna go ahead and re-secure the air intake, but before that I noticed that the coolant reservoir level sender wire was also damaged on both sides. So what I did was I just stripped it back on both ends, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a little bit of 12 gauge wire in between, maybe about 3 inches or whatever. I figure the more the merrier. Give me some space for later, I guess, when I replace it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just solder that back up. In addition to soldering that portion up, I will be soldering these 2 wires together, and I'll be doing the same, probably adding about 1 inch or 2 just to give it some kind of slack, because this is actually, as you could tell, this is the noticeable pull in the wiring harness, and I don't want to damage any more wires. After I go ahead and, you know, put all this back together, we get it running, idling, fill it with coolant. I'm not going to cover all of this back up just yet. I will be doing that after I do a shakedown, after I get all my monitors clear, the emissions testing all done. That will kind of tell me that I won't have any more electrical issues or gremlins running around. I don't want to put this all nice, neat, and covered if I'm going to have more electrical problems. I'm not hoping I have them, but if I do have electrical problems, it won't be a surprise because this thing was sitting in a field for so long. As you can see, there were rodents underneath this engine bay, so if there is stuff like that, it's not a surprise. I just don't want to go ahead like clean all this up just to remove it. So if that's bugging you, which it is bugging me, it's super ugly, but not to worry. Maybe in a day or two here, if we can get the monitors to pass, if we can get everything good to smog, we'll be good to go. I'll clean all that stuff up. So I'm gonna go ahead and begin soldering all that stuff, and yeah, we'll go from there. All right, guys, I went ahead and got my wiring all soldered up. I added heat shrink. It's supposed to be 2 pieces here, so this is gonna go higher up right there, and they're just gonna cover the joints, solder joints. Went ahead and did these 2 as well. I just added a little bit of wire, and I'm gonna go ahead and heat shrink those just so I don't have any problems. And man, I'm telling you, this is some strong freaking insulation on these wires, man. They're kind of hard to cut with my wire stripper, so I had to use my my wire dikes. Anyways, we're moving right along. Now I'm gonna use my cool torch here and just melt these heat shrinkies. Alright guys, went ahead and repaired all the wiring. It came out decent. Like I said, I'll put conduit on a little later. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and fill the cooling system. And this is what I use here. It's a Snap-on brand cooling system refiller. You can definitely get these cheaper online at you know, Amazon or something like that. However, I just ended up getting from Snap-on. This is the weight of the case, if you can't tell. So basically this is a vacuum filler. If you haven't seen one of these before, you put this into your fill port, you apply shop air or compressed air into this port here, and it basically creates a vacuum in your entire cooling system. And this right here will attach to fresh coolant, which will be here. This is Dex Cool 50/50. And the other tube will be the one bleeding your air out of the system. I personally like to use this. It saves me a ton of time from refilling, waiting for these to burp, refilling, wait to burp. You still need to let it burp, so keep that in mind. Although you use this, they still will burp, maybe once, maybe twice. These diesels, from my experience, I've done cooling system work to these. I haven't, like I was saying, this is kind of my first engine rodeo. However, they take a lot of freaking coolant, and they have a lot of places where you can have air pockets. So in my opinion, if you can use this while doing this kind of job, you should. This will make your job a lot faster, tidier, quicker, easier, however, you know, you want to put that into perspective. But I'm going to go ahead and use this, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so I topped off the coolant and I had the vehicle running for a little while, and I was just kind of going through everything, making sure I didn't find any leaks. Well, I found a relatively large leak, which I'm still trying to understand where it's coming from. It's dripping all over this exhaust manifold here. Yes, this fuel filter, I did not replace it because our wonderful parts person did not give me this water in fuel sensor. I'm assuming that's what it's called. But yeah, it's all over this side of the engine, which personally doesn't make any sense why I'd have this much fuel on this side of the engine, because the fuel filter does not the fuel filter wouldn't leak onto the valve cover and I don't know why there's oil leaking, excuse me, fuel leaking onto the valve cover. And when it hits the valve cover, it's going down and just dropping down the side of the block. So I'm trying to figure that out, because I know the upper valve cover is sealed, the lower valve cover has its own gasket, and it's not engine oil which is burning, it is diesel fuel. I smelled it. Smell it again. Yep, it's certainly diesel fuel. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, put this truck on the rack, lift it up, pop this fuel filter off. I have a new fuel filter, but I'm going to have to go ahead and do the O'Reilly's run to go get one of the aftermarket water and fuel sending unit thingies. I'll have to get an aftermarket one, but at least I'll have something in there for now. I'd prefer to get an OEM one, because apparently some of them don't come with this drain, which is fucking stupid. Why would they not come with that? Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead, pop that off, and just generally look over what's going on, because I know that there's no way there should be fuel coming out of that lower valve cover. I know that my bolts are nice and tight there. Everything is nice and tight, about as tight as I can get them. So yeah, go ahead from here. Alright guys, so I got the truck on the lift, and I believe I found my leak. So if you look at this high pressure fuel line, it's pretty wet, and compared to the others, sorry, I'm trying to flashlight and record this, it's all wet up here. It was more wet just a minute ago, but yeah, it looks like the diesel's coming down from there. I think it's coming down the valve cover gaskets. Excuse me, the valve covers, because this is high pressure. Coming down and just getting all over the place. Another thing that I found was that is slightly concerning. There is some kind of hole in the back, like a weep hole. Back here. If you can see it right there. And there's some, it appears some kind of coolant or something slightly dripping out of there, which is kind of concerning. I don't know why there'd be coolant coming out of there, and it smells like fresh clean coolant, like I just filled right now. I'm looking around, I don't see any leaks, so we're gonna have to look into that a little more. But for the meantime, what I'll do is I'm gonna probably remove that 8mm and just re-torque that fuel injector high pressure line, and check again, see if we have any more fuel leaks. Alright guys, so just a small little update of what I've been doing. I put these wheels on, woo, they look a lot better than these other ones. But I went ahead and I removed the fuel filter, and I showed you guys what was leaking the fuel line. So what I did was I backed it out ever so slightly, and I re-tightened it, making sure that everything was seated properly. I started it, just put the fuel filter back on. I just wanted to see if there was any leaks. At this point, there's nothing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run to O'Reilly's, get the water and fuel sensor, and just go ahead and put the new fuel filter on. I have the AC Delco one, and I figured that's like the last component of the fuel system that's here, and I didn't change it. So I have this behemoth here. It's a big ass fuel filter, you know what I mean? So it's a good one, AC Delco genuine, but the water and level sensor that I'm getting is aftermarket, but that's all I can get my hands on at this point. I did notice that I made a major mistake too. This valve cover, that valve cover did not seat properly. It slid as I was putting it on, and I didn't notice it. So that's probably going to cause me some grief later on. Yeah, that's definitely going to cause me some grief later on, because it's going to start leaking diesel, and fuck, I think I might have to redo that. I'm going to do the best I can to maybe just loosen the bolts and pop it in place. But at this point, I'm going to just leave it alone. If I drive it and it starts leaking profusely, we'll handle it at that point. But as of right now, I'm just going to let it be. As far as the coolant leak goes by the bell housing area, I don't know what that is right now. I did just a quick research online, and it could be a water pump. Could be a water pump. Apparently when they leak, they go to the back of the engine and they come down this little weep hole area that I showed you guys. I don't know. We're gonna have to dive into that a little deeper, but since the head gaskets were replaced, I have some kind of faith that it's not the head gaskets, but I didn't do them personally and I couldn't tell you how the job was done. Maybe they missed a step or forgot to put a hose back on, or maybe a hose popped off. As you guys saw, the fuel lines before, they were really bad, so it's possible that, you know, the line could have just punctured, and that's the end of that line there. So I'm letting it idle and I don't see any more fuel dripping all over the place, which is a good sign. So I'm gonna shut it off now and I'm gonna run over to O'Reilly's real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, thank you, O'Reilly's. Went ahead with the aftermarket one, standard brand. Looks good enough. Right guys, so we're back from O'Reilly's. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the fuel filter and install the new one with the new fuel and water sensor. And we're also going to install this retaining cap back on to that high pressure fuel line. In addition to that, we're going to go ahead and do that to the first cylinder on the driver's side. I did drop this bolt. I couldn't find it. It was buried. So I'm going to go ahead, and if I can, I'll do it from underneath. Go ahead and put it back on. If not, we'll do it from the top. It's no big deal. It should be there. All right. Alright guys, so we got the hood out of service mode, install the fuel filter and the bolt for the cap, the high pressure fuel line cap. So what I'm gonna do next is remove this fucking cover because it's bothering the shit out of me. It's so ugly and I hate looking at it. I know it might damage the paint on the hood, but I mean the paint on the truck is already kind of fucked up anyway, so I'm gonna remove that and throw it in the garbage. Alright, essentially removing that just gained $30 of equity. It looks so much fucking better without that ugly, tore up piece of crap down there. So I'll see the engine bay is looking a lot better since we completed this task. Yes, I'm gonna clean it more, don't worry. Like I said, I want to drive it first, do a shakedown, handle the electrical gremlins, then we'll go ahead and put some more conduit on the wiring, maybe scrub the engine bays, polish some of these stuff as best as we can. So now I'll put the new fuel filter in, the bolt that retains this high pressure fuel line. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Fucking keys, bro. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Where the fuck do I leave these things? It's the second time. Misplaced these doggone keys. Let me find these keys again, I'll be right back. Alright, I found them. Okay. Oh, wait to start went away already. Okay, nothing that time. Go ahead and prime it a little more. A little more. Gonna use flashlight because why not? Oops. You didn't see that. Okay, it feels pretty tight. Let's crank it up one more time. Alright, it's probably gonna down me again here in a minute. But I think we're ready for our first test drive. Well, I don't know, I don't remember if I recorded it or not, but I've already test driven this vehicle once, and that's when I initially put the batteries in it and started it. We were just too excited that it started. The truck did not have reverse, and the transmission was in limpo mode because of that. So, and it had a massive fuel leak. So now that we've replace essentially all of the exterior fuel components. At this point, you know, should be a good test drive. So let me wrap some things up, clear the check engine lights. I had the map sensor unplugged, so I'm gonna clear the codes and we'll be ready for a test drive. All right, guys, well, we made it out. We have reverse, have drive. Oh, first shifted into second, pretty smooth. Smell all of the diesel fuel burning off the exhaust manifold. I'm pretty sure this thing will have a good amount of smoke coming out from under it. Nice shifting. The steering feels pretty tight too. Alright, well, I'm gonna put you guys down so I can drive safely, but I'll bring you back once I'm out into the open country roads. Alright, guys, so we made it a block, and then I pulled over just to check the truck before I took it any further. So what I found was I got a couple leaks at the fuel pressure, high pressure fuel lines, one that bank right there and the one next to it. So I'm gonna have to tighten those two. And I've also got one, and the fucking one is under the damn ficum, so that kind of sucks. So I gotta pull the ficum out, move it out of the way, and take the air cleaner back off, move it, and just tighten them back up. So apparently I was a little too afraid from over torquing, and I really under torqued them, which was stupid because now I gotta take all this shit back apart. I think this side, the driver's side, won't be too bad. I think all I gotta do is just remove that and maybe remove this coupling, or at least just loosen it here, and I can move the coupling out of the way, remove those two eights, tighten them down. Ficum was not what I feel like I'm removing right now after doing all this damn work, but it's got to be done. So there's only 3 bolts holding it in, and then a bracket, and then we'll tighten it up because it's only this first one here that's wet right now. So I'll go ahead and tighten those up, give you guys a follow-up after that. Alright, guys, so we moved the ficum, tightened up high pressure fuel line down there. Man, this was a fucking pain in the butt to get all this shit back off, especially this bracket. It's a pain in the butt. So I've already done the driver's side, both of those over there. I've done this one, I've tightened it down. It's about as fucking tight as I can get it. If I tighten it down anymore, it's gonna break. So hopefully that's as tight as it needs to be. Alright, let me put this back together and I'll tap in. Alright, guys, I finally got some assistance, some recording assistance. So we fixed all the fuel system leaks, and the transmission fluid was quart overfilled, so I went ahead and adjusted the the fluid level. So this is the first time actually taking it up to speed. So far, I have no complaints. Rattling is the license plate, back seat. I'm gonna go ahead and take it up to about 60 miles an hour and see what happens. Alright, guys, so a little bit of bad news on the first test drive. The truck started overheating. It got up to about 260. Then my check coolant temp light came on. Popped the hood. There was a lot of smoke under the hood. One of my coolant lines that I replaced are not tight enough. And then I realized that both my coolant hoses were not warm. Neither was my expansion tank. All the fluid in there was actually quite cold. So it was leading me to believe that the water pump is not actually pumping anymore. a fairly fatal flaw, common flaw in these trucks. So stay tuned, because I'm gonna go ahead and be replacing that. Hopefully I can get one tomorrow, if not later on in the week. But a little unfortunate, but glad at least we got one problem knocked out of the park at this point. All right, guys, well, that's gonna conclude the 8th day build of the Duramax. At this point, we're gonna have to wait till we get water pump and find time to do it. But I'm glad we did the injectors, because they needed to get done. We'll be able to send the cores out and get just under $1,000 back, and no more smoke coming out of the crankcase, no more fuel leaking, so that's always a plus. It's all our core stuff. So if you guys need fuel injectors, check out injectorsdirect.com and stay tuned for the next update. Peace.